Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madhusudan Sarma, and I welcome you to this class of N100 series. In this series, we are covering complete polity from the mains perspective. In today's class, I am going to cover the executive and pressure group. We are taking two topics because most of the topics which are to be covered in executive we have already covered in chapters like separation of power. For example, the power of president to issue ordinances we have already discussed. The power of the veto power we have already discussed. So in today's class we are going to cover the issue of election of the president. This is something which is yet to be asked. It has been asked many a times in prelims exam but has not been asked in mains exam. And then the issue of pardoning power, which is also something which is yet to be asked by UPSC. And then we shall move to the effect of cabinet system and the coalition politics, which is like after this 2024 election we are again in the coalition era. So how is coalition politics different from the single party majority politics? That is also something that we will discuss in this class. And then in the end we are going to discuss the pressure group. How are they different from political parties? So let's start the topic. Good afternoon, Manoj. All of you who are joining this session online, please like the video and share it with your friends so that they are also aware of this series. Those of you who have missed the earlier classes, you can watch these classes on the our playlist that is with the name N100. Okay, so let's start the today's class by the topic that is election of president. Let's have some factual information first. Like which the election, what kind of election is there for electing president? Is it direct election or indirect election? You are right, it is indirect election. When in direct elections, we all of us who are 18 plus years of age, we are eligible to vote. That is the case of MPs and MLAs election. In this indirect election, who are the people who are responsible or who are eligible to vote? The group of these people are collectively called as electoral college. Okay, so in the electoral college of presidential election, who are eligible to vote? Who votes in this president's election? It is all the elected MPs. All elected MPs. Okay, it means MPs whether they are in Rajya Sabha or in Lok Sabha, but only elected MPs. Okay, next is elected MLAs who are not eligible. So those people who are nominated in Rajya Sabha, so not eligible. This is also equally important to understand who are not eligible. Like nominated in Rajya Sabha. Now we do not have any nominated member in Lok Sabha. Earlier there used to be nominated member in Lok Sabha also, Anglo-Indians, but they were also not eligible to vote in the election of president. Next is member of legislative council, wherever they are also not eligible. Okay, so these are the group of people who are like equally placed with the MLAs, equally placed with the other MPs, but they are not eligible to vote in the presidential election. Next is, yes Manoj, you are right. Yes, elected MLAs of a state as well as UT. A state as well as UT. Okay. Next question is that what is the method of election? Okay, so normally in the MPs and MLA election, the method is known as first past the post system, FPTP. In this FPTP system, what happens that whoever gets more votes than all other candidates is declared winner. There is no requirement that you have to get the majority of the votes. Normally, like if someone is representing us, we say suppose we 100 of the people are sitting here and we are electing someone as our representative. He should represent at least half of the people. But in FPTP system, that is not the requirement. Suppose there are 4 candidates, all are getting 25% vote. The one who is getting 1 vote more than all other, he would be declared as representative. Okay, like the name is coming from the race. Like in the race, whoever crosses the finish line first past the post. Whoever passes the post first. So he is simply running faster than all others, and he is declared winner. So from there, the name first past the post system is coming. Whereas the presidential election has the system of proportional representation. Proportional representation by single transferable vote system. Proportional representation by single transferable vote system. Okay, why this name proportional representation? Because in proportional representation, as such, this system is more aptly understood if we look at the Rajya Sabha election. There, this system is all the features of this system is applicable. Okay, because in Rajya Sabha, in proportional representation, what happens that all the political parties, they get representation in proportion of the vote share that they get. Like you must have read in the newspaper that in the current Lok Sabha election, it's not that or rather more aptly it is in the previous Lok Sabha election. Previous Lok Sabha election, the BJP has not got 50% of the votes. Okay, but still it has got more than 300 seats, that is more than 50% of the seats. So the seats were not in proportion to the votes polled by these political parties. BSP did not get any seat in the last Lok Sabha, whereas it was the third largest political party in terms of vote share. Okay. So because of these anomalies happens in FPTP system that we follow in Lok Sabha election. In proportional representation, all the political parties get their seat in proportion to the vote that they get. That's why the name proportional representation. Second is single transferable vote system. It means that the votes are transferred from one person to another. So usually the voter, rather than voting to any particular person, they give their preference. That my first preference is Mr. A, second is Mr. B, third is Mr. C. So in case the person he is voting is not going to win, like he is lagging behind, he is at the 10th position, he is at the last position, then his vote is transferred to the other candidate. So ultimately, his vote would be counted towards a person, and the transfer is done in a way to make sure that the one who is declared winner is representing the majority. Okay. So this is how, I mean, this complicated system as such will not be asked in the exam. You just need to understand how it works, some nuances. For example, votes are transferred. That is the key thing, key word that you should understand. The proportional representation means people, the political parties win seats in proportion of the their vote share. Okay, do you have any doubt with respect to this system? Then I can explain it. Otherwise, we can move forward. The next point that is there with respect to presidential election is that it's not that the vote value of all the MPs or all the MLAs, I mean everyone in the electoral college is equal. That's not the case. In the Lok Sabha election, all the voters who are voting, the value of their vote is equal, that is 1. That's not the case in presidential election. In presidential election, the vote value is calculated using a formula. It's a very complex system. There are some principles which are being followed in this formula. I mean, you might have memorized the formula, you might not have, depending upon your understanding, but I will simply tell you the principles on which this formula is based. The first principle is that, see, all the MPs which are there, like India is a federal system, right? We have two tier of government. One is at the state level, another is at central level. People vote twice, one to elect their state government, another to elect the central government. So keeping that in line, for election of president, the voting is done by both MPs and MLAs because we have a federal setup. Next is obviously the all the MLAs in a state, they should be treated equal. Okay, so first is India is a federal system, so there has to be voting at by both MP as well as MLAs. Second is that all the MLA in a state should be treated equally, or rather, suppose few MLAs might be representing more people and few MLA might be representing less people. Suppose in a particular state and the population is of 100 people and there is only 2 MLA. So effectively one MLA is representing 50 people, whereas in another state the population is 100 but there are 10 MLAs. So effectively the MLA over there is representing only 10 people. But see, MLAs are as such voting on behalf of their people, the population that they are representing. Since MLAs are voting on behalf of their people, their vote should be in proportion to the number of people they are representing. So MLA who is representing 50 people and another MLA who is representing only 10 people, probably their vote value should not be equal. Like the one who is representing 50 people, his vote value should be equal to 50. The one who is representing 10 people should be, his vote value should be 10. So for that reason, it was decided that the vote value of a single MLA is going to be, okay, first I will explain here. The vote value of an MLA is equal to the population of the state divided by the number of MLA in a state. The population in the state divided by number of MLA. In this principle, what we are thinking, let's see, all the MLA in a state are on par with each other. Their vote value is equal. Maybe it may be a possibility that in some particular MLA's constituency, the population is slightly more than some other constituency, but still in a state this has been presumed that all MLAs are representing equal number of people. Because see, the in delimitation we have seen that delimitation would be done in such a way that all the constituencies are having equal population. Within a state, all the constituencies should have equal population as nearly as possible. Okay, so because of that reason, since they are supposed to represent equal number of people and they are all MLA of the same state, so that's why within a state all MLA's vote value are equal and that is equal to population of that particular state divided by number of MLA in a state. Now see, population and number of MLAs, this ratio will vary from state to state. Okay, this ratio can be like different from Bihar, can be different from Rajasthan, can be different from some other. And then also like population would be in some number and the mechanism would be a bit complex. So that's why it has been decided that it would be divided by 1000 to make it simple. The division of 1000 is having one simple purpose, that it would make the calculation simple. We are not going into decimals, etc. Okay, so the 1000 multiple of this fraction is going to be taken. Now, this is the status in last president election. In the last presidential election, like vote value of Uttar Pradesh, one MLA of UP was 208, for Bihar it was 173, for Telangana it was 132, for Andhra Pradesh it was 159. Okay, so what was the formula? That divide the 1971 population, again I will come to this point again, by number of MLAs and then further divide by 1000 to get vote weight of each state MLA. Next question comes is why we are taking 1971 population. It is the same reason that we have seen in case of delimitation, that when we are dividing the like when we were deciding the number of seats from a particular state, we have fixed it that we shall do it on the basis of population of 1971 census only, so that the different state having different population growth rate, they are not adversely penalized or incentivized for something good or bad done by them. Someone like southern India states have done something good, they have reduced their population growth rate, but because of that they should not lose their share in election. So similarly, like if we are taking the latest population data, in that case the vote value of the southern India state MLA will relatively go down. So that's why relatively I am saying, because see, suppose the population here has doubled, probably here it has only increased by 50%. So in that case, this number would only increase by 50%, but this number will be simply doubled. So relatively, North Indian states will benefit from if we take the 2011 census data. That's why it has been fixed at 1971 level. Now the next thing that has been decided, that since we are federal system, there are two levels of government. So the total vote value by all these the two levels should be equal. So the total vote value of all the MLAs, I mean at a state level MLAs are voting. So the total vote values of all the MLAs should be equal to the total vote values of all the MPs. Okay. So this is what has been done. Yes, summation has been done. Okay, like say I'm taking a simple example. In Bihar, the vote value of one MLA is 173. There is like say 243 MLAs. So if I multiply this, this is the total vote values of all the MLAs of Bihar. Some number we will get. Okay, maybe this number is 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, which something like that. Okay, I have not done the actual calculation. Actual number may be different. Similarly, we will do it for Nagaland, we will do it for Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Arunachal, Assam, Meghalaya, Bengal, Odisha. So all the state and union territory, we shall do simple multiplication. This will, and if we do the summation of it, this will give me the total vote value of all the MLAs in the country. And now I shall equate it to the total vote value of all the MPs. Now here another assumption that is taken, that all the MPs are equal, whether they are MP of Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. So suppose there are 543 Lok Sabha MP and 233 Rajya Sabha MP, and the total vote value by summing the vote value of all the MLAs is this. So by simply using the unitary method, this is something that would be useful in CSET also. If I simply divide the total vote value by the total number of MP, this is going to be the vote value of each MP. Okay, which is, I mean, it is a real figure that is there in front of you. For the last election, the vote value of one MP was 700, whereas vote value of one MLA was varying in this manner. Okay, you can see that vote value of an MP is always much more than vote value of an MLA from any of the state. And this is practically, you also know that usually in one MP constituency there are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 depending upon the state different MLA constituency. So that is reflected in their vote values also. MPs are representing more number of people as compared to MLAs. So that's why their vote value is more. But the vote value of an MP, whether he is from Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, is same. But the cumulative vote value of all the MPs of Lok Sabha is more than cumulative vote value of all the MPs from Rajya Sabha. Would you agree with this? Is it true or false? Please reply. The cumulative vote value of all the MPs from Lok Sabha is more than the cumulative vote value of all the MPs from Rajya Sabha. True? Simply because see, the vote value of one MP is 700. Vote value of 543 MP is 700 into 543. Again, for Rajya Sabha, the same 700 would be multiplied by 233. Simply because Lok Sabha has more number of MP, the cumulative vote value of Lok Sabha is going to be more than that of Rajya Sabha. Okay. So that's all which is to be understood for the purpose of election of president. Since it has been asked in prelims so many times, I expect that at one point of time UPSC will ask you to elaborate on the procedure of election of president in mains paper also. So you must understand the nitty-gritty each step in the presidential election. If you have any doubt, you must ask. Either you can ask now through chat, or if you are watching it in recorded format, you can ask it later on by putting your comment. Is it clear? Roughly half. That is also, in fact, less than half. The half is also come around 270. So it is less than half. Now let's move to the next topic, that is pardoning power of the president. So I mean, you must have seen various movies in which the president has given the pardon to few people, and in the recent newspaper reports also we see the president giving pardoning power. Okay, this pardoning power, can you please tell me, is this a executive power or a judicial power? Executive power means the power which belongs to executive. Judicial power is like the power of giving judgment, something which is exercised by the judiciary. So in your opinion, is it an executive power or judicial power? It is actually a power which is independent of judiciary. So it's an executive power. There is also a statement, you must write it, that when president exercise the pardoning power, it's an act of clemency, it's an act of empathy, compassion, and it's not the review of the judgment of the court. So when you appeal, not you, but when any person who appeals to president, or rather when he goes to president requesting pardoning, he does not go on appeal. Okay, he does not say that, see, Supreme Court has made this error because of which I deserve pardon. Rather, he makes a case that because of so and so circumstances, I need to be given clemency or pardon. Okay, so it is an executive power, it is not a judicial power, it's not a appeal, not an appeal, and when a pardon is given, it's not the overturning, it's not a review, judicial review, not a judicial review either. It is not a overturning of the judgment of the court. Okay, so it's definitely simply a executive power. Now the next question that must comes to your mind is that why this power has been given to the president? Why is president having this power when we already have the hierarchy of courts which are giving judgment, which are looking at the merit of the case? So in this, probably this aspect itself, when I am saying it, it's an executive power, the answer to this question lies. We are not saying the judiciary has made an error, that's why we are giving a pardoning power. But see, the one thing is that going by the book. Another thing is to going by the uh, societal norms, going by the practical consideration. So sometimes it might not be in the interest of the larger society or in the interest of the uh, practical consideration. It might not be practical to implement the judgment given by Supreme Court. And sometimes there is always a possibility that the punishment is probably harsher under the societal constraint or the societal consideration. Okay, sometimes like judiciary may or may not weigh in the other acts done by the person. Suppose a person has committed a murder, he might be like judiciary is bound by the law that he has to be penalized, but probably the person might have improved after that. There are like extra legal consideration also which might come into play at certain cases, certain instances that might warrant different treatment with the people, which judiciary is not capable of. Judiciary, we cannot have give so much of discretion to judiciary. So that's why taking practical consideration, taking extra legal consideration, the power of pardoning has been given to president. Is it clear? Like suppose a person who has committed a crime at a certain particular point of time, and after that he is showing regret, repenting, and he is showing uh, stances of reform. He is improving. He is now a changed person. Like judiciary has simply taken into consideration that he has committed a crime, he is given life imprisonment. But probably later on, it might be considered that he should be released from jail because he is a changed person now. There is no point of keeping him behind the bars. So that to keep those things in mind, this power, extraordinary power, has been given to the president. Next thing is that, like these are the factual polity questions, that what are the cases covered under the pardoning power of president, and then similar pardoning power is with governor also. Okay, so like in case of president, the offenses against a union law, in that case the power to pardon lies with the union government. Similarly, the offences against the state law, the power to pardon will lie with governor. Then sentences by court martial, since army is only the exclusive domain of the union government. So the power of court martial, I mean to power of pardon in case of court martial lies with the president only. And in case of sentence of death, the pardoning power is with president even if the death sentence has been given by a state law. So in case of death sentence, the pardoning power is completely with president, even if the death sentence has been given under a state law. Okay. Now our Bible, Lakshmikant writes that in case of death sentence, the power to pardon does not lie with governor, even in the case where death sentence has been given by the state law. But recently, a Supreme Court judgment has, okay, before moving further, I would simply tell you that power to pardon includes pardon, commute, remission, respite, and reprieve. There are 5 different terms which are used. Okay, so when I am simply using the word power to pardon, I am referring to effectively all these 5 items. Okay, although I am simply mentioning pardoning power or power to pardon, but effectively like these words have different meaning. Pardon means simply like to acquit of all charges. It's like making the person pure again. Okay. So it nullifies the sentence as well as guilt, or you can say conviction. The conviction is also removed. That person is no more considered guilty. He is not going to be treated as a convicted person. Like once he has committed crime, everything he has been absorbed of all the guilt. That is pardoning. Okay. Now, pardoning can be done from any sentence. Suppose a person has been sentenced to death, life imprisonment, 5-year imprisonment, pardoning can be given. Okay. Next is commute. Commute is something like commute is in normal language, commute is also about traveling. So, if you are taking a less severe path in your commuting, that is commute. So, commute is when changed to a less severe path. So, less severe form of punishment. So, suppose a person was given death sentence, now it can be commuted to life imprisonment. Someone who was giving the life imprisonment with rigorous imprisonment might be converted into normal imprisonment. So, these are the different method of, this is the meaning of commute. Remission means, I mean, reduction in sentence. Reduction in sentence. Someone was given life imprisonment, it can be remitted to 5 years of imprisonment, 10 years of imprisonment. That is remission. So, just to memorize it, you can have reduce the mission time. Remission means reduce the mission. This is how you can try to memorize it. Next is respite. Respite is given, it's also a kind of remission, but because of some exceptional circumstances, or rather you can say that it is a remission due to some reason. Respite, like someone is differently able, someone is pregnant, so because of that reason if the sentence is reduced, that would be called as respite. Another one is reprieve. Reprieve is temporary. Reprieve is temporary, or temporary means like see someone's death sentence could be reprieved. He was supposed to be hanged today, but he would not be hanged for say 1 month time, so that in this 1 month period he can request for pardoning. So that is called reprieve, or he can go for appeal to a higher court. So I will just sum it up. Pardon means making someone pure, like no guilt, nothing, completely absolving of all charges. Commute means change in nature of punishment, commuting to a lesser form. Remission is reduction in sentence, reduction in mission time, reduction. Respite is that it's a remission, reduction in sentence for some specific reason. And then reprieve is temporary stay. It is neither reduction nor change in form, it's just the sentence would not be executed right now. Maybe a few months later, maybe a few weeks later. Is it clear? I very often get confused between these terms. Pardon is something which is easy to remember, but like respite, remission, etc., these are relatively confusing. Now I shall go to the fact that uh, the pardoning power of governor, something which is written in Lakshmikant, is something which has been changed by Supreme Court. Now Supreme Court is saying that governors can pardon prisoners including death row ones. Supreme Court has said. So, like it was obvious, this is something that is there written in our constitution also. Like in our constitution also, there is an article number 161, and this article power of governor to grant pardons etc. and to suspend, remit or commute sentences in certain cases. This article very clearly writes that governor shall have power to grant pardons, reprieves, respite or remission of punishment. Okay, or to suspend, remit or commute the sentence of any person convicted of any offence against any law relating to a matter to which the executive power of the state extends. Okay, it means that any state law. The terminology has been, a long term has been used, that any law relating to a matter to which the executive power of the state extends. Effectively, what is saying that against any state law, the governor has the power to grant pardons, reprieve, respite or remission of punishment, or to suspend, remit or commute the sentence. So this article was very clear that governor has the power to grant pardons, and no exception has been written here that in case of death sentences governor will not have the power. Okay, then why was Lakshmikant writing other way around? So Lakshmikant was also not writing anything wrong. What it is writing is based on CRPC. The criminal procedure code earlier, which was there, now we have replaced it by BNSS. That criminal procedure code was saying that in case of death sentence, the pardoning power would lie with president, would not lie with governor. Now, the Supreme Court has interpreted that this power of pardoning is a constitutional power with the governor. The governor is having this power which is coming directly from the constitution. I have shown you the article 161. Since it is directly coming from the constitution, this is something which no other law, not even CRPC, can take away. So this power overrides any other statute like CRPC, etc. So Supreme Court has said that governor can pardon prisoners including death row one, and even before they have served a minimum 14 years of prison sentence. Like CRPC were also having one condition, that if a person has served 14 years of prison sentence, then only he can be pardoned. Then the governor said that no, this is a constitutional power. There cannot be any limitation on it by any other law. Governor can exercise its constitutional power. The Supreme Court has also said that this is not a discretionary power of governor. The governor has to exercise this power on ad and advice of Council of Minister. The same is applicable for president also. The president also is, it's not that the president acts on his or her personal wisdom, rather it is the ad and advice of the Council of Minister. Effectively, it is the Home Ministry which takes up these calls. The power of pardoning is exercised. However, see, the personality of president is always reflected in these pardoning decisions. Like before Pranab Mukherjee, Pratibha Devi Singh Patil was the president, and during her entire tenure, she did not confirm a single death sentence. She commuted a lot many, she pardoned a lot many, but she did not confirm, she did not reject any of the pardon petition. That no, you are not being granted pardon. Whereas, like when Pranab Mukherjee came to the office, as soon as he became the president, he first confirmed the death sentence of Afzal Guru, then Ajmal Kasab. These were the terrorists who were hanged during the presidency of Pranab Mukherjee. So definitely, the personality of president is reflected, although he or she has to take a decision on the advice of council of ministers. So council of ministers usually does not advise something like that can be returned by the president. President always have the right to return the advice once. So the council of ministers usually does not take that chance. Okay. Any doubt till now? That's all that we are going to cover in this chapter of pardoning. Okay. Next, we are now going to see Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Now, these article numbers are important. That's why I have brought the bare text of the Constitution. I am not very sure whether you are regularly every day after the class you are going to the text of the Constitution and reading those articles or not. But this is a habit that you should develop. Like I have seen, I have told you earlier classes also, every time whether in newspaper, in class or any debate, discussion, whenever an article, you are reminded of any article of Constitution, you should go and actually read the article. What are the words used in our Constitution? Okay. And in geography, I have also told you, whenever you come across any place in India or abroad, you must go to the atlas and find out where that place is. Which are the places around that place? Okay. Now let's come back to this article. Article 74 says that there shall be a council of ministers with the prime minister at the head to aid and advise the president, and who shall in the exercise of his function act in accordance with such advice. See, original constitution has article till here only, that there shall be a council of ministers to aid and advise the president, and it was implicit that in the parliamentary form of system, the president is only a nominal head of the government. The real head is prime minister. But see, the first prime minister or other, there has been various instances when the president said that we are not just a nominal president. I mean, I have got such a big bungalow, etc. President house is there. I cannot be a president for the names. I cannot act as a rubber stamp. I have a mind of my own and I will apply it. So that's why through 42nd Constitution Amendment, it was made explicit that president shall exercise his act in accordance with such advice. But then through 44th Constitution Amendment, this second provision was added. The 44th Constitution Amendment Act said that president may require the Council of Ministers to reconsider such advice. The president can send it back for once, and the president shall act in accordance with the advice tendered after such reconsideration. So president can send it for reconsideration, but if the same advice is tendered again after reconsideration, the president must act as per that advice. Okay. See, this makes sure that president never rejects it. I mean, in recent time, I do not remember any instance where president has said or sent back any advice for reconsideration. Like even the farm bills case, or even in the case of demonetization, the opposition leaders went to the president. Like in the farm bills also, the opposition leader went and said that, see, this is something which is not in the public interest. A lot of farmers are on the street. Why don't you ask the Council of Ministers to reconsider this bill? The president did not take action. President listened to the views of the opposition leaders, but as such did not reject the advice or did not send it back for consideration. So in recent time, president simply is acting as per the aid and advice for Council of Ministers. Now some other facts regarding the Council of Ministers. Like what is the strength of Council of Ministers? The maximum strength is 15% of the strength of Lok Sabha. This has been inserted by 91st Constitution Amendment Act 2003. This is 91st Constitution Amendment Act is also considered as the second anti-defection law. Okay. Another information is that the president appoints the both prime minister as well as council of minister. In appointment of prime minister, president has discretion. Whereas in appointment of ministers in the council of minister, president does not have discretion. The appointment of ministers has to be done on the advice of prime minister, and this is something which is written in the next article, article number 75, that says that the ministers have to be appointed on the advice of prime minister. So effectively, like council of ministers remains in office till they enjoy a terminology which is used till they enjoy the pleasure of president. But actually, practically, this pleasure of president means the pleasure of prime minister, because ministers are appointed by president on the advice of prime minister. Okay, and these ministers are of three different kind in India. At the top are cabinet ministers. Then there are minister of a state with independent charge. And then there are minister of state. In fact, there is a fourth category of deputy ministers also. As such, this second and third, the minister of state with independent charge and minister of state, they are both like minister of state only. In one case, what is happening that there is a cabinet minister, like currently in the Ministry of Finance. There is a cabinet minister also and there is a minister of a state also. But there could be some ministry in which there is no cabinet minister, there is only minister of state. So in that case, we say that minister of a state is having independent charge. Otherwise, minister of a state is getting charge along with cabinet minister. Okay. Now, all these cabinet ministers, like this, first thing is this differentiation among the ministers are not mentioned in constitution. So, constitution does not mention it. This is coming again by convention. Okay. Next is that this cabinet ministers, all these cabinet ministers, they are collectively called as cabinet. So, cabinet includes prime minister and all the ministers of cabinet rank or all the cabinet ministers. And why the system of cabinet has come into, come into being? Because see, practically, like as the business of the government is increasing, now government is involved in a lot many different activities, and for all these activities there has to be some regulation. Like earlier there were there used to be PSUs also for almost all the activity, and today we have a lot many PSUs, and then there are directorate, secretaries, etc. So there are the size of the ministry has been increasing. Now we have more than 70 ministers at any point of time. It keeps on changing, but 75 to 80 is the size of the council of ministers most of the time. Now, to hold a meeting of such a huge cabinet of huge council is always going to be difficult. It may not, to bring about any consensus in such a huge meeting and to then conduct such a huge meeting, to make all these people available in Delhi to have a meeting to take any decision is going to be a difficult task. So that's why a convention has emerged that out of this all the ministries, there would be few cabinet ministers, few would be of the rank of cabinet. And on behalf of the council of minister, these cabinet ministers will be taking up the decision. And this system is known as cabinet system. So we may write it down that a convention has developed. This is also again a convention not mentioned in rule, that on behalf of all the council of ministers, the cabinet ministers, the ministers like senior most ministers, they will take the decision, and the same decision would be considered as the decision of Council of Ministers. Okay, this system is known as cabinet system. So at the root of this system is the increasing work or expanding work of the government to expedite the decision making. That is the full purpose. Now, one more term which is there, like along with the cabinet system, a term which is used is cabinet form of government. Okay. The cabinet form of government is different from this cabinet system. If the word cabinet form of government is used, if somewhere you see that cabinet form of government is written, it has the same meaning as parliamentary form of government. That is, parliamentary form of government is one where government is responsible to parliament. Okay, so when cabinet form of government and cabinet system, these are the two different, these two terms have two different meanings. Okay, cabinet system is when rather than the whole council of minister, it is only the cabinet which is taking the decision. You know how this term cabinet has come into being? So again, this has origin in United Kingdom system. So in United Kingdom earlier there used to be king, and king used to be active king. Okay, like now they have uh, nominal head in monarchy. They have what do you say, parliamentary monarchy system, or which is also called like constitutional monarchy. But earlier king used to rule, and then king used to have its council of ministers. Like in our case also there used to be Navaratna, Ashtadiggaj, depending upon a different king. So similarly in UK also king used to have its council of minister. There also the same thing happened and started happening. Like the size of council of ministers started increasing. Then rather than consulting all the ministers, the king started this habit of consulting a few ministers. And what the king used to do, that attached to his bedroom, there was a small room in which the meeting of all these uh, is like core people, core group used to take place, and that room was known as cabinet. That room, like today also we say that when you search on the Google cabinet, the Google will show you the pictures of those what you say, lockers etc. only. That is something which is called as cabinet, where you keep your luggage. Okay, so this is something that was done in that cabinet. There used to be the meeting, and from there this nomenclature cabinet system that emerged. Okay, now the next question that emerges from the cabinet system is that whether cabinet system is marginalizing the parliamentary supremacy. What is the impact of cabinet system on parliament supremacy or parliament's power? That is the matter that can be debated. Now, would you like to contribute anything? How has this system marginalized the parliament supremacy? So, see, if any such question ever comes to your paper, the first thing that you have to think is, how was parliament supreme? Where was it supreme? So obviously the answer is that what were the functions of parliament, and in its function definitely parliament is the supreme body. For example, parliament is supreme in terms of law making. In fact, parliament is also having a constituent function. Under this, it does the constitution amendment. It make laws that have the effect of amending the constitution. Okay, but the parliament functions also goes on to ensuring executive accountability. It also, the parliament has the financial function. In terms of the financial function, the parliament approves the budget, etc. It has complete control on the budget making process. Then parliament also does the some kind of judicial function. These are the broadly speaking 5 different functions of parliament. Now whether you have to see the impact of the cabinet system on all these functions, like see all these functions parliament is supreme, so we have to see the impact of cabinet system on all these functions, and if we see that it is marginalized or not. Now let's understand what has happened due to the cabinet system. So effectively see, the cabinet headed by prime minister is taking all the decisions for the government. So there is a kind of oligarchy that has developed. It's not the complete government who is taking the decision. It's not all the MPs, or it's not all the ministers either. It is only a small group of cabinet ministers headed by prime minister who is taking this decision. So it has given rise to a centralized decision making by a oligarchic system. Okay, centralized decision making. Now add this to the fact that all these ministers, they remain in office till they enjoy the pleasure of prime minister. Like their continuance in the office is dependent on the prime minister's desire. So from this angle you can say that this whole system is rather moving towards the presidential form of system. You have to use this word, moving towards the presidential form of system. Prime ministerial form is now moving towards presidential form, where president, like prime minister, is the key figure. Okay, now what is happening, that all the, and then to this fact you add the fact of anti-defection law and whip. So first, normally we have the system of swim and sink together, that if you do not agree with the decision of the council of minister, you cannot be a minister. You must resign. Now you have added this anti-defection law and whip, that you have to agree with the decision of the cabinet, otherwise you will be disqualified. So effectively all the MPs, on behalf of all the MPs, the decision is being taken by cabinet, because no MP can differ from the decision taken by the government, because if he differs from the decision taken by the government, he will be disqualified. Now let's come to the parliament. In parliament, government always enjoy majority. The government will always, like this government, the cabinet is enjoying the majority. Cabinet has the uh, enjoys the confidence of the house. Since the cabinet is enjoying the majority and no MP of the political party can go against the decisions of the cabinet, effectively what is happening, the parliament is approving the decision taken by cabinet. So parliament is merely approving the decisions taken by cabinet. See how there are two things happening. One, because of the cabinet system, we are moving towards a centralized decision making, moving towards a oligarchic decision making, moving towards the presidential system. Because of which the decision making is concentrated in few people and especially in prime minister. Okay, and the second thing is flowing from there. If someone, if like someone who is disagreeing from the decision taken by the prime minister, in that case he will be disqualified. So no MP is going to disagree from the decision taken by the cabinet. So effectively all MPs are going to say whatever is decided by the cabinet. So the all MPs are merely approving so the decisions taken by the cabinet. Now if in case of any law, the law is first approved by the cabinet and then all MP will agree to this, and in that case what will happen, that parliament will merely approve the decisions taken by or the bills approved by the cabinet. So yes, in terms of law making function, definitely the parliament supremacy is compromised. Ultimately the cabinet is supreme. We can also add the fact that for last 5 decades no private member bill has passed. This is also said that ultimately parliament is making only those laws which are passed by cabinet. It is the cabinet supremacy. Then you can also add the fact in terms of law making only that ordinances are passed by cabinet and which are routinely approved by parliament. Okay, you can take the example of farms law ordinance. Ordinance on farms laws. They were approved by the parliament despite a lot of protest from the farmer, a lot of resistance. Okay, then there is aspect of delegated legislation. A lot of laws are being made by executive only, which are approved by cabinet. So it is again, parliament is not even having supremacy in the field of law making. That supremacy is actually practically enjoyed by cabinet. Next is the constituent function. Here also the constitution amendment is also something which is happening only after the approval of cabinet. You can take the example of Nari Vandan Act, providing 1/3 reservation to women. Then in terms of executive accountability, since a decision, executive accountability, how is it is ensured? So like the parliament passes various resolutions, motions. Through this, it ensures accountability on the executive, and all these motions, resolutions are passed only by the majority. Since cabinet enjoy the majority, enjoy the confidence, effectively this is also being loosened. And like cabinet also decides, cabinet decides the agenda of the parliamentary session. What is to be discussed, what is not to be discussed in a parliamentary sessions, that business is also decided by cabinet. Obviously it is finalized, like cabinet, practically cabinet proposes and then it is finalized by the business advisory committee. But it does not go against the wishes of the cabinet, or rather you can say that even the presiding officers presiding officer being biased or rather being political in nature, they favor the government and effectively the wish of the government persist in parliament. Wish of the government is the wish of the cabinet. So this is what happening. Since presiding officer is not neutral, he is politically biased towards the treasury benches. So this is also tilting the matter in favor of the cabinet. Okay, next we go to the financial function. In financial function, we can directly say that in this case, what is happening? That Rajya Sabha does not have even effective majority. Rajya Sabha has no role to play because of these reason. And in Lok Sabha, the cabinet enjoys majority. Cabinet enjoys majority. So effectively, in financial matter, in the parliament, there is only what you say, namesake accountability is ensured. Like there are no instances in recent time that a budget has been curtailed, any limit has been put by the parliament. So whatever is the budget approved by the cabinet, the same is approved by the parliament also. No cutmation is approved, no kind of other regulations are imposed by the cabinet. And then in terms of judicial function, obviously the cabinet is supreme, sorry, the parliament is supreme, but then because of the majority enjoyed by the cabinet, it is the cabinet that has the veto power. So in these two functions, like constituent function and judicial functions, usually the cabinet alone cannot take the action on behalf of parliament because two-third majority is required, and that in both the houses of parliament, which is very difficult for any government to enjoy. That's why we can say that these are the two functions where cabinet only has the veto power, that without the wishes of the cabinet it cannot happen. In all other functions, it is the wishes of the cabinet that is simply approved by the parliament. You can also add the factor that this is more so happening because of the single party majority government. And coalition government, again, like uh, the coalition partners have to be convinced, and parliament used to witness a lot of debate and discussion. Whereas in the cabinet system, in the single party majority system, because of the influence of anti-defection law, effectively the cabinet is taking decisions on behalf of parliament. So parliamentary supremacy is marginalized. Is it clear? If you have any doubt in any of these steps, please mention. So there are two structured answers that you will write. One is you will go by the functions of the parliament. Another is you will go by the this explanation first, what is happening due to cabinet system, and then you will add these 5 functions and explain each one of them with example how on behalf of cabinet parliament it is the cabinet who is taking the decisions. Okay. Next comes the way forward. So what should happen if like the parliamentary supremacy should be there, it should not be compromised, and especially not by the cabinet. Like see, it can be compromised by judicial review, it may be compromised by constitutional supremacy, but it should not be compromised by cabinet supremacy. That is not in the interest of democracy. Okay, so what can be done? So you have to write all those suggestions that we have written about improving the stature of parliament. See, what are the things that are creating problem? One is anti-defection law. So we have already said suggestions for anti-defection law. That see, Dinesh Goswami committee says that it should only apply in cases where the uh, stability of the government is threatened. Otherwise, it should not apply. In that case, obviously, MPs can speak their mind even if they are to the same political party. This will help the parliamentary supremacy. Next, another point like you will have regarding ordinance. We have seen already, look at the chapter of ordinance. We have already given you the suggestions. That suggestion you can write about ordinance. We have seen about delegated legislation. What are the suggestions that you can give? We have in general discussed how to improve the status of parliament in the parliament chapter. So all those suggestions only you have to write here. Apart from that, one particular suggestion is very important, that we should try to bring about intra-party democracy. The problem is also because of the increasing centralization in the political parties. Because of the increasing centralization, no one dares to say anything against the Prime Minister or any of the cabinet ministers. This centralization is not good for democracy. In democracy, the power should be with people. Power should be decentralized, not centralized. Okay, so that's why we would also recommend that there should be intra-party democracy. In this, there is a suggestion that in every political party there should be an executive committee, and this executive committee should be responsible for conducting regular elections at various level within party. Conducting election within the party. And all the important decisions like giving tickets, like approving the budgets of the party, etc., they should be taken through the intra-party elections. Like the way we see in USA. In USA, who is going to be the president is decided by election within the political party at different level. So the same should be followed in India also. That is the suggestion we have to give. Practically very difficult to implement, but again, ideas should be given of highest stature. Then only it would be implemented to some extent. Okay. Now we shall move towards the next topic of the day, that is coalition politics. Now after the break of 10 years in India, we are again witnessing coalition politics. Before that also, we had coalition politics till 2014. Indians were a bit fed up with that coalition politics. A lot of issues were there. Again, we are in coalition politics, but this time the one party which is in majority is relatively stronger than all its coalition partners. Because of which, probably we may never witness those fallacies, those demerits that has crept in during the previous coalition era. But still, we as a student of polity, we must revise what were those fallacies that may come in. Okay, so first tell me, try to define coalition politics. What is this coalition politics? Anyone? Any rudimentary definition if you have to like write? See, coalition politics is simply when there are more than one political party which are coming together, which are sharing their uh, electoral campaign for obviously some gains, and sometimes when they form the government, this government is known as coalition government. Yes, multiple parties collaborate to form the government. You are right. So again, see, even during that time when there was a single party majority government, as such there was coalition politics. There were coalition partners who were even in the ministry. There were few ministers also from the coalition partners. Okay, during 2019-24 period also. But since there was a majority of one single party, the stability of the government was not dependent on those coalition partners. But now is not the same situation. This time, the stability of the government is dependent on coalition partner. The single political party is not enjoying majority in the house. Okay. So this is the definition that you can write. You can make your own definition in your own words as well. It is not necessary that you memorize this definition. When several political parties join hands to form a government and exercise political power on the basis of a common agreed program or agenda, there has to be, see, several political parties to form a government, exercise political power on the basis of a common agreed program or agenda. They have to agree on some common program or agenda. This is described as coalition politics or coalition government. Just remember the keywords. You can write the definition in your own words. Okay. What are the features of coalition politics? If I have to ask you, let's see, these are the things which would be found in coalition government, which may not be found in a single party majority government. If there is a coalition government, this is something that will happen. What are going to be those things? You give 1, 2, 3 points at least you write. Then I will tell you the rest of the points. And see, when the government was formed after the election, many articles have come in the newspaper. I don't know if you were busy in preparing for prelims or enjoying for after prelims. Yes, instability in government, exactly, that is an important feature. So the first thing is that there has to be existence of at least two partners. This is something which was there in definition itself. Then it is formed for the sake of some reward, including to seize power. So see, coalition is not only formed by the government, the parties which are in the power. It is also formed by the parties which are in opposition, like they formed India Alliance before the election to contest the election together so that they could seize power. Okay. Then there is going to be some compromise. There is not going to be rigidity. That is the key feature. For example, if you just take the example of Congress and National Conference in Jammu and Kashmir, National Conference was definitely having the stand that Article 370 should be brought back, whereas the Congress has not said so. So they are now, when they went to the election, they are now collectively made some compromise and they are merely saying that okay, we would fight for bringing a statehood back to the Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, so there is compromise, which is the key to coalition politics. Because political parties are formed on ideologies. Theoretically, in India, it may not be the case. In India, you form political party for the sake of convenience, but obviously some ideologies are often there, and when two different political parties merges, they come together, some compromise of ideologies do take place. Example, you can see, take in say Maharashtra, Shiv Sena, Congress and NCP, they came together to form the government. Shiv Sena and Congress coming together. So these two political parties have very, I mean, like completely poles apart ideologies. But still, they made compromise. They formed a common agenda and they formed the political party. Sorry, political coalition. Next is, like, there is going to be pragmatism, not ideology, when there is going to be coalition government. Then there is going to be a minimum program, like the common agenda, the minimum program on which they would try to build the consensus. Okay, this is something that we are going to achieve, and this is a dynamic affair. Like it could be as dynamic as you can write the example of, say, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. If you are afraid of writing the names, you can simply write the, like, situation in Bihar. where the Chief Minister of Bihar changed political parties. Like this is currently his ninth term as Chief Minister. He had changed political party at least thrice, not political party, like political coalition at least thrice or four times. Okay, and then this is mostly temporary conjunction of a specific interest. You can take the example of various any state, the two political partners, like there are very few example where two political parties have always been on the same side. Like even in Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu in the last term was not with BJP, now he is with BJP. There is no certainty of the future. Okay, and the same you can see in various states. Regional party demanding a special packages for their state, like Bihar demanding a special state. Yes, this is also something like uh, regional pressure. This is another feature. I have written it in the merit. Next slide I have on the merit of the coalition politics, merit and demerit. There is merit as well as demerit. There definitely pressure from regional political parties, and a lot many decisions are taken under this pressure. Like railway has recently started two mega infrastructure projects, and one is in Andhra Pradesh, another is in Bihar. A lot of special packages in this budget was given to Andhra Pradesh and Bihar. So the regional pressure is visible in the action of the central government. What is the merit of coalition politics? The merit is that obviously it accommodates various diverse interests in the government. This is a very good merit. Like it was said that during coalition era, a unilateral decision will not be taken. No, the interest of any particular group of states or any particular community is difficult to neglect in the coalition politics. But it can happen in this single party majority government. Okay, like see, do not have to give an example because this will invariably lead to a negative example. You have to simply explain it that in Council of Minister itself, various states, communities are represented. So, naturally, the diverse interest is protected. I hope you are understanding what I am referring to implicitly. It is more representative, again the same point that I am saying, that all communities, various political parties are represented, various states are represented in a coalition politics. See, when various political parties are represented, they are representing various political ideologies also. Like suppose only Indian National Congress was there, it was not representing all the different ideologies. It was having a socialist ideology, Indian National Congress. If you simply consider the Indian National Congress in single party majority government, it was having this socialist agenda, and the same agenda was being pursued. The reforms were taken in the coalition politics only. Then obviously in coalition politics, an effort to be made to build consensus among the political parties involved. It cannot be that Manmohan Singh was taking a decision unilaterally. He has to invariably take into confidence his coalition politics partners like Mamata Banerjee. Because of this, there is going to be less radical change. We will not see any decisions like demonetization in coalition era. There cannot be such a radical change. There has to be continuity in policy. This is a big merit, because if the decisions are radical, it can have a negative impact as well. Continuity often does not have much negative consequences. Like farm bills kind of thing, such radical change is not possible. Like farm bills have to be withdrawn. So in the meantime, there was a lot of uncertainty, economic uncertainty, a lot of agitation took place in the areas around Delhi. A lot of inconvenience happened to the people, and ultimately farm bills were withdrawn as well. Such things will not happen in coalition politics. And then it strengthens federal principle as well, because what happens that in coalition politics, the coalition partners are often forming government in various states. And there was also another analysis which says that the political parties used to, they did not used to compromise the interest of the state government. Because see, tomorrow there is always a possibility that we can form government with the regional party. Okay, so regional party might be in the government in the state, they might be in the coalition partner in the center. That's why there was less tendency of center using anti-federal means against the state government. Okay. Next is it reduces the tyranny of the government. Like this is from the citizen perspective also. I am saying that the fundamental rights of the citizens, etc., are more protected. The government does not become tyrannical in a coalition era. The government does not take steps to curb the freedom of the people. Okay. Is there anything, any issues? If all the points are clear, please mention clear, sir. Next is demerits also, like unstable, as you have already said that coalition government is unstable. You can take the example of a lot many governments that changed, like SD Devagoda, and then Indra Kumar Gujral, and then Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Atal Bihari Vajpayee once became prime minister for 13 days, then became prime minister for only 13 uh, months. So this, if there is frequent changes of the government or the prime minister as well. Then it also leads to policy paralysis. This is something that happened during UPA 2, and this policy paralysis also leads to reduction in growth rate. Reduction in investment, the first thing that happens is there is reduction in investment, because the businesses are not very sure whether their favorable policy will come or not, and with reduction in investment there would be reduced growth rate as well, which is obviously not good. Then obviously leadership of prime minister is compromised, like during the during the Manmohan Singh time, it was said that Sonia Gandhi was the super prime minister. There are certain decisions, like there was one more thing we have just studied, that the council of ministers are decided by the prime minister, but during the coalition time it was the coalition parties. Coalition parties used to decide their council of minister. And then it often happens that regional issues overshadows the national issues. For example, like Mamta Banerjee did not allow the Tista agreement. During UPA 2, the Tista agreement was signed with the Bangladesh, but it could not be implemented. Or rather, Mamta Banerjee did not, even after agreement was reached, Mamta Banerjee did not allow it to be signed. And in case there is a governance failure, there is blame game that starts happening, that because of that political party something wrong is happening. See, some minister would always be with the coalition partner. This is something, for example, you can say during 2G scam, the Congress said that the scam has been done by the coalition partners. The Congress is not responsible for this. So in case anything goes wrong, there is always this blame game that starts happening during coalition politics. So what's the way forward that you have to write? In the conclusion, you have to write another issue that is there. The more important issue that is there is with respect to the reforms. Whether the coalition government will lead to destabilization of, or rather the derailment of the economic reforms, because it is often said with respect to the second point that there is going to be policy paralysis in coalition politics. Now decision making is not going to be easy. Like GST, you can see GST was something which was as an idea this debated, discussed, conceptualized by UPA government, but it could not bring that GST because the coalition partners could not agree on it. Whereas the same GST was implemented during single party majority. So it was feared that reforms would slow down in the new era of coalition politics. You have to take a stand against it. That no, it is not that the reforms will stop during coalition politics. Why? Because of the two reasons. The first thing is that there are a lot of examples where reforms have happened in coalition era. In fact, the LPG reforms are started in coalition era only. During coalition, that government of Narasimha Rao was a coalition government, but that government only started the LPG reforms that continued, that is being continued by the current government. And till then, whatever that whatever government, whichever government comes, the ideology or the momentum remains in the same direction. Like Land Acquisition Act, LAR, it was brought by the coalition government only. A lot of rights are given to the coalition government during coalition government, like MG Narega, right to education, right to food. They have been given during. So these were also a kind of one reform or another reform only. Reform in the education sector, reform in the economic sector, reform in the health sector, that is happening. So in the coalition era also a lot of reformative activities have happened. And then it is not that during single party majority reforms have come easily. Those reforms which have been opposed, were opposed because there are various actors involved, because they were unpopular with the people. So whether it is coalition government or non-coalition government, they are going to be opposed. For example, farm bills. So there is role of various pressure group also, which are different from political parties, and that's why reforms may or may not be taken. It is not merely the coalition partners that play a role in reforms. So this is the stand that you have to take, that whether reform will take place or not, it depends on the pressure groups as well. Okay, as we have seen in the farms group. So if there are pressure groups which align in the direction of reform, reform will take place irrespective of the nature of the government. Okay, so this is what the conclusion you have to give. And now we shall move towards the next topic, that is pressure groups. Till now, if you have any doubt, you may ask. This is the last topic of the day. On the issue of Diwali, how many days break do you want? Sorry, on the occasion of Diwali, pardon my language. Or you do not want any break? The study should continue. The festival will come and go. So maybe 1 day's break we shall take in this week. No break. Most likely there is going to be 1 day break only on 1st of October. Although Diwali is on 31st, but since we celebrate Diwali in night, so we shall study on 31st. We shall take break on 1st of October, 1st of November. On that day there is not going to be any class. We would compensate that with a class on Saturday. Okay. Now let's study pressure group. All the important topics like executive, legislature, judiciary, fundamental rights we have studied. Now the topics that are left, they are relatively less important. But again, if a question comes, it will fetch 15 marks whether it is on the less important topics or more important topics. So let's take the topic of pressure groups. What is pressure group? So as the name suggests, this is a group. Group means it's a collection of people, and that group is putting pressure. On whom will you put pressure? It makes sense to put pressure on government. Why do you put pressure on the government? Because you want a favorable policy, action or decision. Favorable policy, action. So whether implementation of policy or whether formulation of policy, review of policy, if you want a particular kind of policy that favors your group, and for that particular purpose, if people are coming together and putting pressure on the government, this is called pressure group. Okay, you may write down the definition as well. Pressure group consists of group of people who are actively engaged in promoting and defending their common interest. The group should have a common interest by influencing public policy. So suppose like a group of say all the employees of Reliance, they collectively go on a strike for Diwali bonus to be given by Reliance. Can we call this group as a pressure group in this situation? Technically, no. Reason being that pressure group, this concept comes only in the domain of public policy. In the public domain. In the private sector, if like this is like two private parties, they are contesting with each other. Obviously, they are also using the same pressure tactics, but the concept that we are studying here is in the domain of public policy. When on the government, like same, this is a group of government employee. If they exert pressure on the government for Diwali bonus or anything, that is something which is in our domain. That is what we are calling as pressure group. Okay. Next is that on the structure of pressure group, we can categorize the pressure group in two categories, formal and informal. Formal means which is well structured, informal which is not well structured. The example of formal pressure group are like the group which is made an organization of itself. There is a president, there is a chairman, there are other executive director, etc. So that is a organized pressure group, that is also called as formal pressure group. Okay, it has a well established institutional structure. So even like sometimes NGOs also act as pressure group. They will come under this category of formal pressure group only because NGOs have a proper organized structure. Okay, but apart from the NGOs, like the industry has pressure group like FICCI, CII, ASSOCHAM. This is the industrial lobby. They put pressure on the government as well, like before budget. they will all keep on giving various statements like the taxes should be reduced. The government should bring out a PLI kind of a scheme. The government should maintain SEZ. The government should bring out labor law reforms. They protect the particular interest of industries, businesses. They are not bothered about us employees, the common citizens. Okay. Next is trade union. They are bothered about the labor class. They are not bothered about the businesses. Then professional groups are also there. Medical Association, Bar Council of India, Indian Bank Association. For example, the Medical Association is bothered about the safety of the doctors. And in this process, they are going on a strike. A lot many patients are dying. They are not bothered about it. Patients, let them die. They are bothered about the interest of doctors. So this is the difference between pressure group and the government. The government is not only bothered about the interest of any one section. Government has to look after everyone. It has to look after the doctor, it has to look after the patient, it has to look after the support staff, the businessman also who has opened that hospital. Everyone has to be taken care by government. But pressure group, only their particular interest, their common interest. So that's why it is also said that they pursue their particularistic interest, their particular interest. There are farmers association also, All India Kisan Sabha. In any questions of pressure group, I have given these different pressure groups name because you have to give multiple examples. Taking few examples from industry, few from labor union, few from NGOs, few farmers association. Okay. So you just do not give an example of NGOs. I see the answers of the student and the examples are only of NGOs. That's not the case. In fact, there are some informal pressure group also. You should take their example as well in your answer. Okay, that does not have a well established institutional structure. For example, People's Movement by Anna Hazare, India Against Corruption. That was it has an element of spontaneity, and even more spontaneous was the like movement that has happened after the gang rape incidents in Delhi, that Nirbhaya Kand. After that, spontaneously the people around the country, especially people in the Delhi, they started the agitation. There was no organization structure, there was no leadership involved, which was organizing this movement. Such movement we call as informal pressure group, and that also succeeded in bringing about the criminal law reforms. Okay. Maratha agitation, Patidar agitation, Chipko movement, usually they are obviously led or given some guidance, but they have a lot of element of informality, unlike the FICI and CII. So in case of FICI, they will have a meeting, they will decide their agenda, they will decide their demand, they will formally go and have a meeting with the government, they will influence the government. That kind of formalized structure is not there in these movements and agitations. Okay. Next, we will study what are the tools used by the pressure group for achieving their goal. And there are terms which are used in your answer also. These words should be used. These are the key words on this topic. First is electioneering. Electioneering refers to support and promotion of a favorably disposed political party. See, pressure groups themselves do not contest elections. The elections are contested by the political party. But these pressure groups support those political party that are favoring their interest. Okay, like there are various caste group which support this political party or another political party. In your state, you must be knowing that this caste group supports this political party, this caste group supports that political party. Then there are trade unions of various political parties. They support the respective political party. There are a student union also. Next is lobbying. Lobbying is simply, it is like attempt to influence and win over the support of the people in position of power. Lobbying is like persuading those people who are in power. It's called lobbying. And usually in developed countries like US, etc., all the companies, they have a lobbying budget of themselves. They keep the budget of lobbying. They often, like in India, the word lobbying is not used, rather they have this word public relation, the budget for the public relation or the government policy making. Okay, but all political parties in India also, they have the budget for lobbying. They go and have a discussion, like formally what is legally allowed is that you can always go to the government and say and convince that, see, please bring about this kind of policy. Whereas uh, like obviously kickbacks etc also come as a part of like lobbying process. For example, Neera Radia was considered one of a lobbyist, and her name came in the 2G scam case. That in the name of, say, uh, she was a journalist. She used to go to take interviews of the ministers etc, and in this process she used to convey the message, offers etc of the businessman to the government people. Okay. FICCI, IMA, these are the organizations which are often engaged in lobbying. Next is propagandizing. Propagandizing is like you are creating a environment that a particular kind of decision should be taken. Like environmental groups, they are often using this tool. It is an attempt to build public opinion in favor of the policies that will benefit a pressure group. You will write an editorial, you will use the mass media campaign, you will use the social media for bringing about a particular notion. This is something which was very well done by the India Against Corruption movement. They created a environment that if Lokpal comes into the picture, if the institution of Lokpal is created, India would be corruption free. One sort's solution. Obviously, it was not supposed to happen, but well, at that point of time, that kind of feeling was created. So these are the three tools used by the pressure group. One is electioneering, lobbying, and propagandizing. These three keywords must be there on any answer on pressure group. Okay. Then what is the difference between political parties and pressure group? And whether, like, this is also a doubt of many of the students, whether political parties are also a pressure group. Answer is no. Political parties are directly part of the government. They form the government. Pressure group remain outside the government. From outside, they put pressure on the government to take a favorable action. Okay, so political parties, they contest election. Pressure group doesn't contest election. They aspire to capture power themselves, whereas they doesn't aspire to capture power. They are often in the role of kingmaker. Like we have seen that electioneering is the one tool. They support one political party or another, but they themselves do not contest election. Political parties have diverse interests. Like they have support from the labor union also, they have support from the business group also, they have support from the student group also, they have student from the women also, upper caste, lower caste, everyone. Whereas their interest is a specific. They do not have the general or diverse interest. A particular pressure group will have particular demand. This may or may not be, like in case they are in the opposition, they would be outside the government, whereas they are definitely not part of the government. They are accountable to the people in large. They have to contest election. Contesting election means going back to the people, becoming accountable to the people. Whereas they are not accountable to the people, rather they are accountable to their interest group. So whatever be their constituency, this is also the word used, constituency, their community, that is also you can use the word, they are only accountable to their community. They are not accountable to people in general. Whereas political parties are accountable. Another term which is there, which is used as interest group. it has the same meaning as pressure group. There is no difference. So if the word interest group is also asked, you have to give the same answer. Okay. So that's all that I have to cover in today's class. And in tomorrow's class, I am going to cover you the other topics which are relevant to the polity paper. See you again tomorrow at the same time, 2 p.m. Okay, and if you want to follow me, you can use any of the social media handles to connect with me. Madhusudan_IIT is my handle at all the social media handles. So see you again tomorrow, 2 p.m. I hope you are also writing answers on these topics. If you are following, if you are reading the lectures, after the lecture you must either write answer on PYQ or write answer using any of the say coaching institute questions, but do write answers. Please let me know in the comment section if you have written some answers. Tomorrow we can discuss your doubts again with respect to all these topics, and we will meet again 2 p.m. with the new set of topics. Take care.